Good morning. I'm Amy Jackson here, director at The Perch, and I'm so glad that you are joining us for Brewing Mindfulness. We're making sure tech-wise we're doing okay, so bear with us. So I'm going to just kind of talk for a couple minutes and make sure everyone can join us who wants to join us live. Does it look okay, awesome. As I said, I'm here with The Perch, and The Perch is a soul organization here in Aurora, Illinois. We are all about providing space and skills for soul care, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about how our morning cup of coffee can actually become part of our soul care routine. And so I'm really excited to be talking about coffee with you today. What does coffee have to do with soul care? Well, I actually believe that coffee for me has become a ritual. I make it every single morning every single morning at home, and it has become a thing that I do every single day in a certain way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how it has become a ritual for me. And so I have actually attached some soul care practices to my morning cup, and so it's made it very meaningful for me and a great way that I can be grounded and start my day off right. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I'm just really excited to be sharing our morning cup together today. So a couple things that you need to know as we're getting started. Number one, the reason we're talking about making coffee at home is because a lot of us are making a lot more coffee at home. A lot of us are not getting out to our favorite local coffee houses as much as usual, and I totally get it. I am the same. I'm not getting out as much as I normally do. But I really want to encourage you to still go to your local coffee houses and to buy from your local roasters. Here in Aurora, my favorite coffee house is Society 57. They do a fantastic job with their coffee and great pastries and things like that, and so I love to go visit there and work from there, and just it's such a great vibe. So make sure that you're enjoying your local your local roasters and your local coffee houses. But when you can't get to them, we want to talk about how you can make a really great cup of coffee at home. And so I'm super excited to have my friend Andy here, who is going to share with us some great ways that we can make a good cup of coffee at home. So she's going to get started in just a second here, but I do want to let you know that we will have time for questions at the end. So if you do have anything, feel free to share it in the comments, or wait till we get to that point, and then I'll read the comments at that time too, and we can make sure we have some questions answered. One other thing I want to let you know before we even get started, I will link to it in our comments, but we do have a giveaway going today that all you have to do is share your favorite coffee mug. So I'll share that post. It's in this event. But I'll also share that post with you later today. So, Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Surrounded by coffee.
Yeah, I mean, the best.
I love what's going on here. Okay, so yeah, brewing and mindfulness. So just like you, when I get the time to brew at home, which isn't very often, but I do try to take some time. I've got 3 different brewing methods to kind of talk about and try out today.
Awesome.
So the most common one, I think, that a lot of people have seen, heard, or at least know something about is the French press. It's a great way to make coffee, a little bit different, obviously, than the traditional, brewing pot method.
Yeah.
You don't have to brew as much of it, so that's kind of nice as well.
Yes.
So normally about this size, this is like the 8-cup one. It's about 8 6-ounce cups, I would say. It's not a traditional one. So I think between, 2 people, it's kind of a good size for it.
Yes.
So with any of the brewing methods that you do have, I always recommend, and I think you can kind of talk to any barista, they'd highly recommend it as well, to always rinse whatever it is that you're going to use first, just to make sure that there's no dust in there or anything else that could affect the flavor of the coffee. I actually have a kettle that I use to heat up my water. But you can do just like a traditional teapot over stovetop as well. That works just fine. And then they're all going to have a little bit different ratios when it comes to it. So that's kind of what we're going to break into today. So the first one that we're going to do, like I said, is the French press. I brought a couple different roasts just because I feel like they all kind of alter in their flavor profile and everything. So for French presses, I am a really big fan of honestly any medium roast.
Okay.
But I love anything from Guatemala. I think the flavor profile on them is super great. Soft and subtle, has the citrus notes in it, but not overly acidic.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a very well-balanced flavor profile. So for the French press for this size, and obviously if you get a smaller one or they do have bigger ones, you can always look up online. They've got great resources online to let you know kind of what the measurements and requirements are for it. And then as far as what you would need to grind it for as well. So Starbucks is a really convenient way if you're gonna do kind of corporate style, but like you say, getting out to your local coffee houses, coffee roasters, obviously they will have all the different tools and resources for you and be able to answer any questions. But for this size, we're gonna do 8 tablespoons. You can use just a traditional tablespoon measure. Otherwise, if you want to get really nerdy about it, you can do a scale and just transfer measurements. That's kind of like the barista world of it.
There you go.
But yeah, just any tablespoon measure at home will do just fine as well if you haven't reached that point in your life yet. So we'll scoop out 8 here.
So 8 tablespoons for the regular.
Yeah, for like the traditional size.
Cool. That is one thing I love making French press, but I always feel like I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, well, and it's really hard. I mean, there is some variation. Obviously, less or more is going to alter it. So if you're, it's something that you have to play around with too, because as much as there's a guideline, it also comes down to your preference. So if you're not a huge fan of overly strong coffee or coffee that's kind of in your face, you can play around with that, but it definitely will alter the flavor of it. So.
Cool.
So you settle that out, and then I've already got the kettle preheated.
Awesome.
And I pre-rinse. So everything that's on here, I pre-rinse just to kind of save us some time. So what I like to do in my method, and like I said, you can go to different roasters, and things will kind of change a little bit.
Sure.
But the overall process should remain the same. So I kind of like to get all of the grounds initially wet, kind of just pouring in a circular motion, and I fill probably about a quarter of it up. And then what I'll do, some people use a spoon or a metal stir. I was taught in barista schooling, the more you kind of fiddle around with your coffee, whether it be tools or instruments, the more it can affect the actual flavor or the brewing.
Yeah.
So we were always taught just to kind of swirl it and ensure that all of your grounds do get saturated by the water. And that way there's nothing actually touching the coffee itself. It's just the water that's in there.
And
so
less things to clean.
Yeah, also true, because you less dishes, So once that's all set up, you can go ahead and finish filling the remainder. Which the kettle, I believe, is only going to give us about 3/4 of a full French press. So that's the only, I wouldn't say downfall to a kettle, but a teapot definitely holds more water.
Oh, that makes sense.
For sure. But I'm okay with a stronger cup, so that
there you go.
It's not a huge deal. So then after that, you're going to go ahead. I tend to just rest this on the top and let it sit, and the reason for that, some people will keep it wide open. Once again, it comes down to preference. The reason I put that in there is it seals the heat. So it doesn't allow the French press to cool down. I feel like they tend to cool down a little quicker anyways.
Yes.
So that's just a little trick that I've learned along the way. So we would go ahead and let that kind of settle in there. I do 4 minutes. You can do 4 to 5. I've seen some do 6. I wouldn't recommend that. I feel like that's just a little too long for steeping. But I feel like 4.5 minutes is kind of a perfect increment of time. So kind of while that's brewing there, we'll go ahead and
Great. So we'll let this sit for a second because we don't want to rush the coffee. And I think this is actually a great lead-in because I think one of the reasons I love making a cup of coffee at home and attaching it to my soul care and mindfulness practices is because you do have to wait. It just creates this natural moment where you get to wait and let it brew and be present. And so my morning routine, I actually do pour over, which I know we're going to talk about in a second. But every morning, no matter what, I get my pour over coffee, I make my pour over coffee, and while it's brewing, I just try to check in with myself and say, what do I need? What do I need for today? And that could be energy. That could be I need to be productive. I need some stamina. I need some creativity. I need some work time. Whatever that is, whatever I feel like I need. Maybe I need peace. And I kind of just turn that into a quick prayer. I love to use something called breath prayer. And so I usually say a sentence prayer that you attach to your inhalation and exhalation. So something like, Prince of Peace, help me feel calm today. And so you can breathe in and out doing that, and it's really cool because it's a really simple prayer that you can do anytime, anywhere, but it actually has a physiological impact on us because we actually start to feel calmer. And so that's one thing that I like to do while I'm waiting for my coffee to brew. And then the other big thing I always do is I like to choose a mug, and I kind of refer to it as my mug mantra because I've got all these different types of mugs in my cabinet, and I love to choose one that kind of helps me feel like I'm getting what I need for the day. So if I'm like in a funk and I need just some beauty and some enlivening something in my life, I have this really beautiful one that has flowers and floral stuff all over it. When I just want to get stuff done, I have a giant mug that has a typewriter on it that makes me kind of feel like I'm in my zone. I love our Perch mugs. They're huge, and so if you need a big cup of coffee, but it also has this like camping vibe to it, so it just makes me feel nice and cozy. So if I'm looking for more of a cozy, warm atmosphere, but so I kind of pick a mug, check in with myself, see what I need, and then get to slowly be present while I'm waiting for my coffee to brew. So I love being able to attach soul care to something that I do naturally every single day because it means it actually happens. Yeah, it actually happens, and I know I'm gonna make that coffee in the morning. So anyway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So this is about done. One of the things I love that you talk about is just like the intentionality behind it, and I think that that's kind of like we were touching on. That's what this process does for you, is because you have to wait 4 minutes anyways.
Yes.
Why not live intentionally in those 4 minutes, even if it's just for those 4 minutes?
Yes.
Especially with everything going on right now. You know, we've got COVID, you've got such a different lifestyle happening. It kind of brings a sense of normalcy a little bit back to the table for you, and just gives you those 4 minutes to just be within your thoughts. You know, if you're gonna go ahead and pray, be in prayer. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
We deserve those 4 minutes.
I agree. Minimally, right? We've got so much going on. At least 4 minutes. If you can commit those 4 minutes, it honestly, I mean, that's something we've started practicing since COVID happened, and it's kind of crazy to see how mentally your mind just starts to alter its thoughts on its own. If you commit to one small thing. I think sometimes this whole mindfulness, intentionality thing ends up becoming so overwhelming to people because there's so much being kind of brought to the table that it's like, where do I start? What do I do? How do I do it? Do I have to do it every day? So I think just starting with just that one small step can really just encourage you to move forward. So
I love that.
Definitely. So yes, that is the French press for you. And I will actually. We'll be all jazzed up by the end of this, I'm sure. It means like, yes, please. Always. So this is going to be a touch stronger, just because we didn't fill it up completely. Go ahead.
I mean, darn, I guess.
I know, right?
If you're gonna make me.
The smell of it. So that's one of the things too. Is there's something about aromas, smells, where kind of bringing that into your day as well. Just like brings you to this moment. So even when you are having a hard time, if you can kind of remember how you feel in that moment, it kind of helps you to settle everything back down, kind of calm the chaos.
So true. Be here now.
Absolutely. That's all we have. So.
Okay, that's
delicious.
That's real good. That's real good. Okay. Sorry that you can't taste this.
If only, right? If only, if they could take in the aroma for it.
That's really good coffee. I like it.
It is one of my favorites. I love when it comes back to the table for us. So it's like I said, it's a very just even keel flow to it. Flavor profile is just not too much. Not too little. I think that's where the dark roast sometimes you just have a really hard time. And fun little random fact, but dark roast. So flavor of it tends to be good. You don't actually get as much caffeine from it, which a lot of people don't know. I feel like it's starting to catch on. But yeah, that's where I feel like this comes into play really well because you've got that almost dark roast flavor, but you still get full caffeine effect. So that's always a plus. So yes, as far as moving on to the next method. So I was gonna do a pour over, just a traditional style pour over, and then I realized that just from French press to pour over, there's not a whole lot that's different. And I realized that something not everyone knows about is the AeroPress, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite brewing methods. I think not only for the flavor profile that comes to fruition after doing it, but just the convenience of it. So whether you're at home or whether, like one of the reasons I got it was for camping. Because you can't break it. French press is a little bit harder because it's glass. I'm kind of accident prone at times.
Oof.
So
It doesn't travel well. I tried to
it
take it on
doesn't.
vacation.
It's hard because it's a great brewing method. It just does not travel well, and I feel like you can get same quality out of an AeroPress without having to worry about that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. The actual brewing method is pretty similar. You're just dealing with a lot less coffee. So this is definitely more that independent, just solo cup, which is kind of what we were talking about before we went on.
Yeah.
Was that you're having a hard time because you love the French press, but you're kind of the only one that drinks it.
It's true. I'm the only one who drinks coffee in my house. So if I make a French press, that's a lot of coffee for me.
That's a lot. So yeah, this might work out great for you. So this one is, you've got your actual little contraption. So it comes in kind of 3 different parts. There's 2 ways to make this. I guess you could say that it's a little non-traditional, so to speak, but it's kind of upside down. So we go ahead and you create that seal, and then, like I told you before, I pre-rinsed all of this, but one of the things you will want to do is the filters that come with it. So when you purchase it, it actually comes with a set of filters,
cool.
which is super nice, and it's got its little stand for it. So you pre-wet that, and the whole reasoning behind that is just to get any of that paper taste out of the actual filter, so that doesn't affect the coffee flavor in itself. And then this one is going to be, like I said, you'll see variations of how much coffee to actually do. I do about 2.5 scoops.
Okay.
Once again, that can translate to grams if you get to that point. And maybe we'll do like a graduated class at some point along the way where we've evolved a little bit.
Master class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So about 2.5.
Yeah, I would say 2.5 is a pretty solid amount. And then same thing, I kind of just fill it to where it's going to be about 1/4 of the way, and then sort of just swirl it around, make sure all the crowns are saturated.
Okay.
And then we'll fill it the rest of the way, and that's going to go ahead and just going to not let that go to waste there. And this brew here that we have is actually from the Reserve Roastery in Chicago.
Cool.
So I am a huge fan of that roastery. If you've not been there, I highly recommend it. But that's where you kind of get to see all of the roasting shenanigans that happen. And so they've got different style pastries there to go with the different coffees, and the coffees that they roast there are actually only available there.
Wow.
So like the other stores will get them in from time to time.
Sure.
But yeah, they have specific roast for that place.
Wow.
So that's where my coffee geek comes out. As much as I love making drinks and all of that, going behind the scenes and really seeing what's going on.
I love that.
It's super, super cool. So this is almost done it's almost done boiling. Is there something you wanted to touch on that's kind of heating up a little bit?
Yeah. So, we were talking about briefly earlier just the idea of savoring. Like we both lifted our cup up and just immediately wanted to smell it and enjoy that moment. And I talk often with people about, how do I get started with mindfulness? And I think one of the easiest practices you can get started with is a savoring practice, which might sound really silly, but to savor your cup of coffee, to savor a piece of chocolate, to really intentionally slow down and enjoy whatever you're eating or drinking. Number one, what a great experience. Number two, it really does train you to slow down and be present throughout the day. So if you're someone that tends to get really anxious, or your mind starts doing the crazy spinning, practicing savoring, practicing other mindfulness techniques can actually help you throughout the day tune in more to what's happening right in front of you.
Yeah.
So, so I just love, we kind of were touching that earlier.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
And when you do that, as a coffee nerd, when you start doing that, then you start actually seeing, this tastes different than this, and how I make it.
Yeah, you start to pick up on that.
Yeah, you start picking up on some different flavor profiles and things. Before, I remember years ago being somewhere in the, local roaster, Eric was saying, oh, this one has this great, fruity forward, and I was like,
and you're like,
tastes like coffee. Great coffee, it tastes like coffee. And now I feel like because I sit with it and have this intentional moment every morning, I'm actually picking up on different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even we were talking about earlier, I love, I know the Society 57 has modest coffee, and I can tell the difference when I go there. Or we go to our other great Indiro down the street, you can tell the difference in the roasteries. Which is really kind of an extra fun
You
thing.
almost become I always say it's kind of like coffee. Once you get to that point, you become similar to a wine connoisseur.
Yeah.
Not just with coffee.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I can totally see what they're talking about there.
Totally. wanting to be like a real aficionado taste tester person, like maybe
Now's the
coffee
time
is
to do
your
it. Yeah, absolutely.
your path.
Absolutely.
Oh.
All right. So this guy is all set. So like I said, we're just kind of going to slowly go. And that circular motion is just to kind of help, like I said, saturate all of the grounds and just get really an even pour of water going on top. So we got that. We're going to fill it to the top. And then what we're going to do, and why I said it's upside down, is because the actual filter, this will all get flipped once this is done brewing, and we'll put it on top of the cup. So this is the part that it comes out in, and then you're just going to screw that on.
Cool.
That seal is created by the suction underneath, and then same thing. So this one here, I tend to let it sit for about 5 minutes. I just feel like based on coffee water proportions, that just brings out that, I guess, the aromas and the flavors that we were talking about earlier. I've tried 4 minutes, and I feel like it's a little weak. So if you really want to try and get those flavor profile notes out, I feel like 5 is a really solid time for that. So we'll go ahead and kind of let that go on. And if you're okay while that's steeping, just because it's a little bit quicker to do, I was going to reach out to our tea people. So we don't want to forget about tea people.
We
Obviously,
love
tea can be mindful as well. I love my coffee, but tea is something that I got on actually initially when I moved up to Seattle.
Oh, wow.
That's when I kind of learned as much as I did about tea. So going into barista schooling, I didn't realize there was going to be a course on loose leaf teas.
Oh,
so that was kind of a surprise for me, but that's when I fell in love with teas in itself. So just realizing that there are actually very, very similar ways as far as brewing methods for teas that there are for coffee. So they're both now passions of mine, and there's actually a lot more to them than what people think. So obviously convenience-wise, tea bags are just fine. The things that you'll see different about them, it's kind of like when you come to pre-ground coffee, right? It still works, still has the same benefit, you just don't know time-wise how long it's been on the shelf, when it was originally bagged, which is why I kind of moved over to loose leaf tea. Now, we still use tea bags at home when we're on the go, or if we just need a quick cup at night. I would just pay attention to where you're getting it from. Kind of like anything else local, just make sure you know kind of the process, where it's coming from, and they do have bags that have been unbleached. So I would keep that in mind as well. But you can also pre-bag your own loose leaf tea, which is kind of cool. Most tea shops have their own individual bags. And you just fill it with the correct amount of tea, and then you've got that conveniently stored. You can store it in a mason jar and have it ready for you. But one of my favorite local tea places is Octavia Tea. They are out of Batavia. I initially crossed paths with them a couple years ago, and I think their array of teas are just outstanding.
So great.
They've got your very traditional ones, and then they also have ones that are going to be kind of a little different. So it just depends on what you like, if you like to experiment or not. But then one of the other things too about tea is that obviously they all have different timings. Just like your roasting process, your brewing processes, these will have different times as well. And that's because different temperatures, different times can really affect the flavor profile of the teas. So once again, tools, resources online are easily accessible. But one of my favorites from them is a yerba mate tea. The reason I like it so much is because the pure caffeine source that it has in it. Now you can get this quote-unquote decaffeinated as well, or lacking the caffeine. But I think this is super great. It doesn't give me the crash of coffee. So it's just very even keel, which I like. I'd love to, if we have the time, to brew it in a teapot. This one actually has the mesh filter in there, which is nice because then you can just pour the water on top. So this would kind of be the same similar process. You do a couple teaspoons in there. The other way you can do it, if you do not have people that will drink tea with you, is the individual steepers. These work super great. I would always say the stainless is a little bit better than anything else, just because it doesn't hold on to the flavor of the tea previous to. So if you're going to use it for different teas, I mean, if you want to have one for each tea that you drink, it's totally fine. But yeah, it just, once you actually wash them, it doesn't hold on to the actual flavor of it. So I would say my recommendation is about 2 tablespoons for an individual cup. If you're going to do a pot, I would do 4 to 5.
Okay.
But it comes down to your preference as to how strong you like your tea. So I just want to throw that in there because I know we've got tea lovers out there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to exclude them in today.
Totally.
So yeah.
So you said, is that teaspoons?
Tablespoons.
Tablespoons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So same tablespoon that you would use obviously for your
Gotcha.
coffee. That's kind of nice.
Awesome.
They kind of cross paths. So like I said, similar methods, just using different ingredients.
I love it.
So yeah. Okay. So our guy is done here now. So only difference is, I'm just actually gonna pour this in there. That's from the rinsed water, but.
Oh yeah.
So what's nice about this is you can literally just put it on your cup, and then you're gonna go ahead and just press down slowly but firmly. If you go too fast, it can actually break the filter.
Oh.
Which would obviously stop the
That'd be
coffee
bad.
grounds. Yeah, a little bit, but.
So it's very similar to a French press
Exactly.
process.
Yep.
But you get your cup.
And you get your own individual cup, which is nice because then you don't have to worry about wasting it.
Yeah.
So when you hear that hiss, I don't know how clear that comes through on the camera, but that's when you'll know you've hit the bottom and it's done.
Nice.
And like I said, it's a small individual cup, so it's about 6 ounces.
Okay.
And then whether you want to doctor it up, drink it black, it's ready to go. But if you want to smell and taste, that one's all for you there.
What?
So that's the Rwanda blend from the reserve.
Ooh, okay, well. That smells amazing. Oh, that's great.
It's a good one.
It's like very clean is not the right word, but it
That is
just
a
feels
descriptive
very
word for it,
like
though. Yeah.
light and clean and like crisp. And
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
okay, I'm gonna have to check in.
So method two.
I'm learning right along.
No,
This is
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
And then you have a third.
I do have a third one for
us.
us. So this one is nice. Don't need a kettle. Don't need a whole lot. I just realized a lot of people do not know how to make it at home, and it's such a, I want to say craze right now.
Yeah.
But cold brew.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Also super expensive to buy at the store. You know, I know a lot of companies are making just like their small containers of it. And it was actually my sister who brought it to my attention. She's like, we buy like 4 or 5 of them. And I was like, I have to teach you how to make this at home because you'll save a ton of money. You're really just paying for the bag of coffee, and it gives you, I would say 4 rounds safely. And what we do at home, so we got this at Oldie.
Okay.
You can get them pretty much anywhere now. That's the nice thing.
Yeah.
Is because it is such a quote unquote craze. Any place that can bring something to the table, it's
Awesome.
so what's nice about this, guys, it's got the filter built into
Okay.
it. So as much as we use it for cold brew, side note for tea lovers, it can be used for tea as well.
Genius.
So keep that in mind. But this is the actual filter for it. So what you would typically do, I recommend using a dark roast coffee for it, just because you're looking for that rich flavor profile. You're not going to find that as much with the medium or the lighter roasts. So you would do about 3/4 of a cup. All of this stuff I had, we pre-ground it, but I think grinding on the spot, if you can do it, is the best. It is the freshest. So you do 3/4 of a cup. This guy's super, super simple. So you literally put that back in once that's filled up. You fill to the top with room temperature water, and then you let it sit for 12 to 24 hours.
Yes.
Now they say to put it in the fridge. I actually recommend leaving it on the countertop.
Okay.
At room temperature. Once it's done, you can do one of 2 things. You can either take this out, obviously you'll dump it, leave it in this carafe, and split it per cup. So you're using a 50-50 ratio because this will be a concentrate. I don't like splitting it by each and every cup. I feel like it takes some of my time. As much as being intentional, we also want to be, smart, beneficial with it.
Yeah.
We use a growler.
Nice.
So basically, this size fills up half a growler.
Okay.
And then you fill the rest with water, put the growler in the fridge, and depending on how much you drink, it lasted us, I would say, about a week.
That's awesome.
Which is nice because, like I said, that's not going to, if you can't make it to the coffee shops, you still get your nice cold brew. And just make sure, if the coffee shop is where you love your coffee from, buy their coffee.
Yeah.
And then you get the same benefit, still supporting them, but you're actually able to drink it at home. And I know we have all of our coffee lovers who love their cold coffee all year round. It doesn't matter to them, they're just not hot coffee drinkers, and that's okay. So that's what I would recommend for that. I want to make sure we touched on that because I feel like I said a lot of people don't know how to make that at home. If you either A, don't want to go out and get another new coffee thing because it's just, you love your coffee but you're not that into it. The other thing you can do, which it plays with proportions a little bit, but it still brings out a pretty consistent cup, you can actually do double the amount of coffee that you normally would in your coffee pot maker.
Oh.
Half the water. That will make your concentrate.
Nice. Okay.
So that way you're still getting your cold brew. You don't have to, purchase something else to put it on. Exactly.
Yes.
So that is one way to do it. I would just, like I said, if you can, I recommend this. But, if you just have the coffee pot, you're like, I don't want to get anything else. So we can do it that way as well.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Super helpful. I did a couple of videos this summer where I was enjoying my cold brew in the afternoon. I had a cold brew habit at about 2 o'clock every day during nap time.
Intentions,
I had a goal and I stuck with it, but it got me through the afternoon. So that is helpful to be able to make my own.
Yeah.
Let's see here. One other thing that I always think about when I'm brewing coffee is just, I think having a gratitude practice with coffee can be really wonderful. So that's another way you can bring intentionality to your cup. It could be in the morning or if you're doing your afternoon cold brew like I like to do. And just being grateful for the people, the things in your life, the opportunities in your life, whatever they are, especially in a season like we're in right now where a lot feels very dark and heavy. It can be very helpful to also be reminded that there are good things. It doesn't mean that they cancel out the bad things, but that we can also remember the good in our lives. And so if there's a friend that you're grateful for, send a card. I know we have lots of cards here at the Perch. Send a card, send a text, let people know that you're thankful for them. And the other part of that is I always think about, coffee is not a local crop. So there are a lot of people and a lot of steps in the process to even get to the point where we can make a cup of coffee at our house. And so I'm just always, it's a good reminder to be grateful for all of the people in that whole stream who planted and tended and harvested and roasted and bagged and everything. I mean, there's so many people in that process, and to be just the gratitude behind that. And also that helps me be really mindful in where I'm buying my coffee, where they're getting their coffee from, and some of that. So it just helps me be mindful in my practice as well, how the bigger impact I'm making with my daily cup.
Well, and that's why it helps to support local, because a lot of your local places will know the backstory to it. They pay attention to where it's coming from, how they go about roasting it. And that's absolutely super great. And it really plays into that mindfulness. I feel like just with how our world has started to become, it's very go, hustle. It's kind of the whole grind, mind process. And I feel like, at least for me personally, the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that it's not necessarily so much about the grind, but being intentional, being mindful. Yes, we only have 24 hours in a day, but what are we doing with that time? A part of it comes back on us to where are we being intentional with it? Those 4 minutes, we could take those 4 minutes and scroll on social media, which guilty at times, and I'm working on breaking it, because it's hard. It's something that we, I think anyone has kind of gotten addicted to. And one of our intentions for, I guess all of COVID and since we moved was, our first step was taking the phones out of the bedroom.
Yeah, so
and that has helped a lot because it's not that immediate go and grab. So we went back to old school alarm clocks.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so now I turn that off, and when I get up in the morning, it helps me to be in that mindset, to not automatically go to whether it's technology or go to that grind and mindset where it's like, okay, I gotta do this, and this. And it's like, well, where's the time for me?
Yeah.
Well, even if it's just that 4 minutes, at least I've started my day
at least you got 4 minutes.
With those 4 minutes. So
good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that so much. Okay, I'm going to check and see the comments and see what kind of questions maybe you have posted. If you have not posted yet, I do want to give you a couple seconds here to post some questions because we'd love to answer anything you've got. So I'm going to go to my computer here. All right. There we go. Okay, there we go. Oh, Sharon says she can smell it. That's awesome.
That means we made a good cup.
We made a great cup because she can smell it all the way across Aurora.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna pull this around here and be really tech savvy with my laptop. Oh, Stacy says hi, Andy.
Hi.
And yeah, we've got lots of people joining us. This is great.
Perfect.
Okay, so while you're thinking, if you want to ask any questions about mindfulness, about brewing coffee, please drop those in the comments. In the meantime, I was really curious. I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
is it possible to get a good tasting cup of coffee from a drip brewer? Because
Yes.
a lot of us have that at home, right? Like
Yeah.
that's our easy
Yeah,
go-to.
it's what we know. Yes, so there are a couple key factors that play into it. Obviously, your coffee.
Yes.
So where you're getting it from, and I think supporting local is great. I know one of the places that I love to get coffee from. I love their whole process, but Fresh Ground
Yes.
does absolutely amazing things, and the guy Eric really knows his stuff.
He does.
We used to geek out about coffee all the time, and it's definitely that's definitely I would say the key factor is the beans that you're getting.
Good beans.
Not pre-grinding. If you can avoid
So
that,
smart, yeah.
try to. If it's part of what takes up time in your day, and you would rather, I would say if you're gonna trade grinding fresh in the morning versus the mindfulness we just talked about, pre-grind it the night before.
Sure.
At least it's still fresh enough.
Yep.
Because I would say trying to implement that mindfulness would always take top priority, and then your water.
Yeah.
Water is another big factor. So just pay attention to that. If you have hard water, that's going to play a factor. You have too many like sediments, chemicals, things like that. So I would always just try to use a purified water source.
Yeah, that's a good
So yeah, I would say those are kind of your top three.
Okay.
And then just make sure you're using the right proportions. A lot of people kind of just go based on what's on the bag. Play around with it. Take a couple minutes, and see if that's actually something. Do you need a little bit more? Do you not? A lot of the big commercial style coffees, grocery store wise, I would say if you can avoid the grocery store, do it.
Yeah.
Obviously if you're in a pinch, you're in a pinch, but at that same point, then I would say run to your local Starbucks. If you can't get local, if they're closed on a certain day and you really need your cup of coffee, I've learned a lot about their practices now versus where they were and things and places they've paired up with.
Yeah.
And it's even listed on their bags now, where they've got ethical sourcing. It's something they're really paying attention to because they've realized that coffee is not local, right?
Yes.
And it can diminish. We can run out of it if we don't take care of the land, if we don't take care of the farmers, if we don't.
Yeah.
So all of that plays a big factor, and all those guys know. They know the different elevations and what that brings to the table. So I would say just really pay attention to the beans that you're using, and that you'll be able to tell automatically just with that.
That's great.
That there's going to be a difference.
That's super helpful. Yeah. So it's, like I said, most of us have a drip coffee, or at least that's where we started. And so you can absolutely do that. But like she said, pay attention to your coffee. If you can grind fresh, please do. And pay attention to your water too. If you have really hard water or something like that, I think that's really helpful. Yeah. What was the other? I'm curious. If we talked about lots of things with lots of equipment, things like that, what would be your recommendation if we can only have kind of like one brewing method at home? We only have, we only want to invest in one method.
Yep.
What would be your?
I would say just because I feel like most households do own a traditional coffee pot, so that will take care of your cold brew.
Yeah.
If you had to, go with the AeroPress.
Nice.
And the reason I say that is the durability of it. Yes, that's fantastic, especially if you're newer to it. You don't have to worry about breaking it or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But what we were chatting a little bit earlier before we went live is the actual filter that goes on top here, this screw-on part.
Yeah.
There's a company that has that came out with another top for it. The company's called Fellow, and it actually is a screen that's much smaller to give you the basically mimic an espresso shot.
Yeah.
So if you're into iced lattes, things like that, that's where that would come, because all you would need is an extra lid for the AeroPress. So it comes with its own little carrier, keep it all in one spot. I just feel like it's got, I guess, endless possibilities.
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic.
it's not very big. It doesn't take
Yeah,
much
it doesn't
space,
take a lot of space.
So I would say that would probably be my best one.
All right, going on my Christmas list. So the other thing I was curious, so I have to say, I really mostly drink black coffee at this point. I still enjoy, getting a good latte or something, every once in a while. But I tend to just drink black coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of our friends who are big latte, whatever, they want a sugary, flavorful something.
Right.
Any tips for making something like that at home?
Yeah, definitely. So to touch on that, especially because you are a black coffee drinker, one of the things, and I know I'm probably going to get ruined by the coffee community for this, but I do think that there is a way to do it, and you obviously still have to pay attention to the roast that you're using because dark versus medium will still affect it. Grinding fresh herbs into it.
Ooh.
So, and by that, I mean, you can kind of get risky with it, but you can stay with the traditional, like, do some fresh ground up cinnamon, do some, and mix it into the coffee. Obviously the powder is I feel like the powder doesn't bring the flavor profile that you're looking for, and it can either mute the coffee entirely, or it can actually turn it really bitter. Which is why I think the fresh stuff is great. So like during winter time, just because there's something about cinnamon, cold weather, fall, all of that, we will break up actual sticks and just put it in with the ground. And so it gets almost infused rather than like super sweet, super syrupy. So if the syrupy milk route is not, what you prefer, I would say definitely try that if you can. Super great. But otherwise, there are a few different tools out there on the market now. I know they have the milk frothers, which I mean, we actually just recently saw them at Walmart, believe it or not. So I mean, everyone, it's becoming more and more accessible. I will always say support, shop local if you can, if you're able to. So that would be the route I would go down. Like I said, I love Fresh Ground, and if they've got a lot of different brewing equipment, rather than just coffee. So if you need kind of a one-stop shop, if you haven't visited them, I would say definitely check them out. Great people. But yeah, there's the handheld milk frothers, which aren't so big as an actual electric milk frother.
I think you can even get that at IKEA. I mean, they're out all over the place now. It's little, you can get a little battery operated one if you just want a latte every now and again. And then the other thing I would say is if syrup is kind of your cup of tea, make it from scratch. It's not very hard. And you can, even at the dollar store, they have those little oil pour bottles if you want to keep it stored in that. It's simple syrup, which is just a ratio of sugar and water. Boil that down and add in whatever flavor it is that you want to it. There's a lot of recipes online these days. So a lot on Pinterest.
Absolutely. If you're looking for, right now we're fall, everything is pumpkin.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Pay attention to that. You've got cloves, you've got nutmeg, grab those, and we've definitely got, I think, a couple different spice shops around the area. So stop in there, let them know what you're trying to make, and I'm sure they can help you along the way. But those would be a couple of my recommendations for sure.
Genius. All right, let me do one last check here, make sure I'm not missing anybody. And then I do want to do one thing. So I walk off camera.
Yay.
So I mentioned earlier that we have a giveaway, and I noticed some of you found the post while we're even talking. So there's a post in this event that asks you to share your favorite mug, a picture of your mug, and you'll be entered to win a self-reflection deck, which is one of my favorite products that I have here at the Perch, and one of our most popular ones for sure. But I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So this is a deck of cards. It's just a poker-sized deck of cards. You can't play poker with them. I'm sorry. They just don't have the faces on them. So it won't be very helpful to you. But it has 50 different questions that you can use for self-reflection. And so I have just a couple off the top here to give you an idea. But how has your past contributed to the ways you feel stuck today? If you had 1 week to yourself with no plans, what would you do? What are 3 things that really energize you besides coffee? No. When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel fully joyful? So there's 50 different questions in here, and so they're made specifically to be versatile, so you can journal with them, you can pray with them, you can just reflect on it while you're waiting for your coffee to brew.
I was just going to say, it's a perfect time to apply that.
I have a friend who likes to put it in his dashboard in his car so that he can reflect on it there. I know I heard from one woman that likes to put it on her bathroom mirror. So they're just really versatile. You can use them lots of different ways. There's direction cards in here, as well as a couple of different prayer methods, so that you can do that as well if that interests you. But these are available in our store. They are on sale this weekend for our 3-year anniversary that we're celebrating. But you can get a free one if you enter our giveaway. So I'll share the link to that post again, otherwise it's right in this event. But all you have to do is share a picture of your mug, and I'm going to choose a winner around noon today. I'll let you guys know who won. So make sure you get your pictures in by noon today. I think that's about it. Anything else you want to share before we?
I feel like we covered a lot. I would say just based on my recent, I guess, I don't want to say interactions, but the way that I've kind of taken this on. So I'm a very gotta know all the facts, gotta know the correct way.
Yes.
And the one thing I can share with this is that mindfulness, there is no right or wrong way to go about it.
Yes.
There's a lot of information out there about whether it's mindfulness or about being present or living intentionally. Listen to yourself, and these cards are a great way to start doing that. I feel like we've gotten so far away from our whether it be our gut feelings or our intuitions or God speaking to us, because there's so much going on all the time. Or if we can start to sit with ourselves even for those 4 minutes, and that could be a great starting way. It's kind of a small guide, but still allows you to be reflective of it, and it's coming from your mind, your soul, your body. So just keep that in mind. It's a journey for everyone, and everyone's journey is different. And the purpose of us all is to be there for one another through the journey, but not actually tell people how their journey is supposed to go.
Yes.
So
that's good. That's a good word. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you've been here. This is such a joy for me. For those of you who are in Aurora, I'm sure it's been a joy for you to see Andy as well. So so thankful for her wisdom and just sharing. And also I got free coffee, so
win-win for everybody, right?
If you are local, I do want to let you know today from 1 to 4, I do have our pop-up shop right here at the Perch. I've got all of our latest products, including these self-reflection decks. I hope you'll stop by and say hello and check out our newest stuff. Otherwise, if you are not local, please feel free to find all of our stuff on our online store at theperchplace.com and just click on the store tab. So that's it for us today, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Oh, it says my session.